Hello, I'm Aaron Marino from Alpha M. The reality is that we all feel emotionally down in the dumps from time to time. And regardless of the reason, feeling sad, it sucks. It's part of life though. There is no getting around. At some point in your life, you are going to experience sadness. But it's okay, because that sadness, it's part of human emotion, alright? The good news, generally, it's pretty temporary. But sometimes the sadness and the feeling of gloom, it persists. And this emotional low interferes with your quality of life. You may feel hopeless, you may feel angry, but worst of all, you feel alone. Gentlemen, today we're talking about depression, the different types, and how to treat them. The term depression, it's one word, but there are varying degrees and types of depression. But the fact remains the same. It doesn't matter what type you have, they all rob us of our joy and our happiness, and a lot of times our self-worth. Now, nobody knows exactly what causes depression. There's not one thing that causes it. People are different. But the more research that comes in, the more experts are starting to think that depression, a lot of times, more often than not, is actually related to a chemical change in the brain. So it's not like everybody who's depressed had their cat hit by a car. Lots of people get their cats hit, right? And it sucks and you're sad and you cry, but you eventually get over it. It doesn't develop into full-blown depression. A lot of times, more often than not, genetics actually do play a huge role. My family is the perfect example. Depression dates back to my great-grandmother, Conchetta Gassoni. Seriously. They didn't have the tools to deal with it back then. They didn't know why she was acting so wacky, but the poor woman was depressed. They didn't have the tools or expertise to teach her how to handle it. But lucky for some of my other family members that came post Conchetta, they have learned now how to handle and have great medications to take care of it. Alright, so genetics, okay? You could have, everything could be roses in your life, but genetically you're predisposed to be depressed. There's something chemically a little bit off in your brain that needs to be just adjusted and tweaked a little bit to make you feel better, but it doesn't have to be genetics. Alright, you can experience a traumatic event, but it doesn't even have to be that. No, sometimes people just are depressed because they are depressed, and there is no rhyme or reason. Depression can happen at any age for any reason, gentlemen, and we all experience depression differently. The one thing that is consistent and is textbook is that depression robs us of our joy, and this we need to change. There are varying degrees of depression. Some are temporary, more situational. Something bad happens, you feel depressed, then eventually enough time passes and you move on and you feel better. Others are more chronic, but regardless of the type of depression that you're experiencing, it needs to be managed properly. Hear me when I say this, because this is something that I think a lot of people sort of miss. There's a lot of stigma associated with depression. Depression is an illness. It affects your mind. It also affects your body. And like any other illness, whether or not you've got asthma, you've got heart disease, you've got a bum knee, you've got a hangnail, you treat it. Depression, no different. The problem with treating depression is that there is no one magic bullet that's going to fix it. Everybody is different. Everybody responds differently. And so a lot of times you get into a trial by error situation. But the deal is, I know it can get frustrating. You just got to hang with it. You got to try different things. You got to work with your doctor. You got to work with your therapist. And eventually you're going to figure it out and feel great. All right, so the first type of depression is something that pretty much everybody experiences. It's situational depression. Something in your life changes. You have a breakup, go through a nasty breakup, you lose your job. Some situation impacts your life and it affects your mood. Now, these types of depressions are generally a little bit more short-lived in nature, all right? As time passes, which is the most effective treatment, you feel better. However, talk therapy is also an incredibly effective treatment. Talking to a friend, talking to a family member, talking to a therapist, which we'll talk about in a bit. These are all incredibly effective tools to deal with situational depression. But sometimes talking, it just isn't enough, and your brain needs a little helping hand to just give it that little push off the edge to get better. And a lot of times you may be prescribed antidepressants, even though it is a situational depression type scenario. The deal is, it's going to help you get over it faster, you're going to recover, you're going to feel great. But the deal is, you need to treat it. And regardless of why or how severe that depression is, even if it's mild, you need to go and seek treatment, okay? Not necessarily drugs, but the deal is that even situational mild depression can turn into a bigger thing if left unmanaged. Some people, though, suffer from a more persistent and more dramatic form of depression, okay? Major depression a lot of times interferes with people's ability to live, meaning you have trouble with keeping a job, you have trouble getting out of bed, you don't want to do anything, you don't even want to watch my videos. Come on, I needed to lighten the mood, right? Chronic depression, on the other hand, is a bit different, okay? The person is fully functioning, meaning they're keeping a job, they're raising a family, they might even be hanging out with you on weekends. But the deal is they always seem pretty unhappy. Major and chronic depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. So no matter how many times you tell the person, just feel better, you want to go shopping? How about we go bowling? What do you have to be depressed about? It doesn't help, gentlemen. It doesn't, they've got a chemical imbalance, and people that are experiencing major or chronic depression need medication to straighten out the brain, all right? That's all there is to it. I would also recommend, if you are on antidepressant medication, that you combine that with some additional form of talk therapy. It's a more well-rounded approach. As opposed to just treating the chemical, you also have things that you need to talk about, and it's important to get support. I would recommend a support group. I would recommend one-on-one therapy. You know, you're talking to people that get it, that understand your struggles and what you're dealing with. This is a good thing. It's about to get real up in here, and I'm going to tell you personally that I have used and use therapists at various stages in my life. It is an amazing tool, and you need to think of a therapist, okay, as a tool. It's somebody who is going to help you, somebody who is unbiased, who doesn't have to sit next to you at Christmas dinner. You have problems with your mom, you go in, you talk about it. You have problems with your girlfriend, you go in and talk about it. Whatever it is, your job, it doesn't matter. The fact is, that person's single job is to help you feel better about yourself. They're also not going to blow smoke up your ass. They're not going to be like, oh, you're fine, you're good, you don't have a problem, right? Your therapist is going to be like, yo, Jack, you better get this straight. You are on a downward spiral. And much like treating depression, finding a good therapist that works and connects with you is a little bit of trial by error. The fact is, when you find a good one, you'll know it. But there is nothing wrong. There is nothing that makes you some of the most well-rounded people that you respect the most probably have been using therapists. And the reason they're so well-rounded is because they got it together. They got help getting it together, though. Now, something that is very common for people who are experiencing depression, who actually haven't been diagnosed or treated professionally, they'll self-medicate using alcohol, using illegal drugs. And what this does, it numbs the emotional pain, and it works. But the deal is that afterwards, it actually makes your depression worse, not to mention dangerous. You probably know people. You may be that person that is drinking too much, that is taking drugs. You need to get to the root and the bottom of the issue, because there are definitely better options out there that are going to give you a permanent high, feeling great about things. Depression sucks, right? Life is tough. And I know that looking at everybody's all your friends' Facebook page looks so perfect. Bullshit. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be bummed out. But when these times of being bummed out seem excessive, it may be time to get some help. Now you're like, I think I'm cool, but I have been kind of bummed out and haven't really been eating for the past 3 weeks. I'm not sure. Well, here's the deal. I actually wrote an article about depression, and there's a link below this video that'll take you there. It also outlines some signs and symptoms so that you can sort of look it over. If you're experiencing more than 2, or even 1 for that matter, you may want to think about getting some professional help. It's out there. Depression, dude, sucks. Right? It sucks being sad. It sucks being bummed out. But being depressed is something that you can treat and that you can take care of, gentlemen. It just takes you making the first step, all right? You don't have to feel like this. There's help out there. That help, it's friends, it's family members, it's doctors. These people want to help you. You just need to take the difficult first step to letting them know that you need that help. Because you are way too important. You are way too special. You have big things to accomplish, and you can't accomplish any of it if you feel like crap. Gentlemen, I don't want you to feel like crap. I want you to be happy and healthy. Gentlemen, let's take care of it. I'm proud of you in advance for doing what you need to do.